Hi, this is Dr. Martina, your sexuality expert. And the question of the week is, why do I sometimes get orgasm headaches? First of all, I want to clarify that you don't have to have an orgasm in order to get these headaches. A person that cannot push themselves past the point of no return, but keeps their arousal intensity level very high and stays there for a long time trying to get that orgasm, they can also experience orgasm headaches. That's why I call them arousal headaches. And the cause for this is the way you increase your arousal, the level of intensity you keep that arousal, and for how long you stay there. The first thing we call is the arousal mode, how you increase your arousal, and the second thing we call it is an arousal curve. Let me show you what I mean by that. Arousal mode and arousal curve are part of the arousal function, which means basically how the body physically functions during sex. It is one of the 4 components of our sexuality, the physiological component, and it is one of the most important ones. 80% of all causalities of sexual dilemmas lies within this component. Arousal function includes the arousal reflex, the arousal sources, the arousal curve, and the arousal mode. The arousal reflex is what gets the sex event going with vasocongestion of the genitals. We have been given this reflex at birth, all of us. This reflex cannot be activated at will. It gets triggered, mostly by touch. The arousal sources are what we use to get the arousal to increase. The sources are our 5 senses, plus the big source of fantasy. For the question of the hour about the cause of orgasm headaches, or as I like to call them, arousal headaches, we will need to get into the arousal mode and arousal curve to find the answer. Let's start with the arousal mode. The arousal mode refers to the physical actions of the female or male body to be sexually aroused and, if possible, to reach an orgasm. What this means is that the arousal mode is your chosen way to get yourself to increase your arousal, if possible, to orgasm. The individual arousal mode is defined for the way in which the 3 laws of the body are used for an increase in arousal. The 3 laws of the body are tonus, rhythm, inner and outer movement. I made a video on the 3 laws of the body. You may want to review it. I will provide a link for that video at the end of this one, so you may do so. Sexocorporel's concept is that we study what exactly is happening in the body. So, through decades of observations, Jean-Yves Desjardins, the founder of Sexocorporel, came up with 5 different arousal modes. And they are archaic mechanic, undulating, and wave-like. As I mentioned earlier, the arousal modes are defined by the usage of tonus, rhythm, and inner and outer movement. Since we're dealing with a tension headache, we will be talking about the archaic and mechanical arousal mode. The archaic has gotten its name because it is the first arousal mode observed in babies, because it assumes a minimum of motor coordination. For the mechanical mode, the name reflects the mechanically rhythmic movements typically associated with this method of raising arousal. These are not invalid arousal modes, which is something that must be said. Both arousal modes allow increase of arousal and have the ability to reach the point of no return for a discharge. And that is why most of us use these specifically. There are additional details about these and all of the arousal modes, their strengths, their limitations, but for today's purpose, we will just focus on what the body goes through with these 2 arousal modes, the mechanic and the archaic one. The body is in high muscle tension, especially but not limited to the pelvic region. Since both modes are strenuous, the breath is short and infrequent, and the movement is very narrow or none at all. Increased tension is required in order to reach the point of no return. But if you maintain that tension for a very long time, then you will get a headache. Which brings me to the arousal curve, which will demonstrate that situation quite well. On the left, you see the intensity levels with the arousal reflex sitting at 0 and orgasm reflex sitting at a 10. Between the 8 and the 10 lies what some call the critical zone. I actually like to call it the exciting zone because it is very intense in that zone. The body's getting ready to unload, so everything is at its peak, if you unload or not. The archaic and mechanic arousal mode gets you in that critical zone rather quickly, which is one of the strengths of these two modes. Let's say you want to stay up there for a long time, which a lot of people do, me included. Your arousal curve would look something like this. You can see the person climbs up the ladder rather quickly and then stays up for a long time. Your body is in high tension and low oxygen for a long time, which can produce a headache. You might say, but I have a release and I still get the headache. Even if you have multiple orgasms, you will still be up there in the critical zone with high muscle tension in your whole body. Your arousal mode combined with a long-lasting experience can produce your headache. Now you might say, but it only happens with my clitoral orgasms, not with vaginal ones. Clitoral orgasms require stimulation of a very small area, and with a narrow, high-tension arousal mode, the stimulation needs to be precise and offers no margin of error. So now your body adds extreme mental focus on that activity, which will increase the chances for a headache. The vagina has a larger playing field, if you want to name it that way, and the intensity level is only a fraction of the clitoris. If you're a male, you might say, I only get a headache when I finish with my own hand after long sexual play, including penetration. After long stimulation of your penis, your body is exhausted, and when you force it back up to the critical zone for that last big ejaculation, your narrow arousal mode will increase its high muscle tension. And if it takes a while to complete the task, you can experience a headache. Now you've learned the reasons why these possible headaches, and you probably want to know how you can avoid them. Well, the short answer is movement and variation. The movement is what helps you get out of that lock that your body is in, first of all. Move your hips, move your shoulders, move your upper body. Just start moving, and as soon as you do that, your breath will change. You will go from very shallow breathing. You can take a deep breath, and as soon as you can take a deep breath, you possibly realize that your glutes muscles, your pelvic floor muscles, and your abdominal muscles are all in high tension. And through that movement and the variations of the breath, you can release those. That will drop your sexual arousal, and that is okay. You need to get out of that pleasure and critical zone there, because nobody can sustain that for a long time. You may even need to vary the rhythm of your stimulation. Once you get a little break in the lower levels of intensity, maybe a 6 or a 7, you can climb back up. Use your favorite arousal modes that you use all your life so far, and increase your arousal again. You can get back up there. And then if you want to go through past the point of no return, you increase it even more to reach that level. So, in other words, the 3 laws of the body is what helps you decrease your arousal, decreases your tension, and therefore decreases your chance of getting an arousal headache. Let me show you what this kind of an arousal curve would look like. As you can see, here we have a fast increase of the arousal, which is provided by the 2 arousal modes, the archaic and the mechanic arousal mode. Then the person remains within the pleasure zone. Then lowers the arousal with the use of the 3 laws of the body and increases it again at will. Then lowers it again, remains below the intensity level of an 8, and if he or she wants to come, then the increase of tension and possibly increase of rhythm can bring the arousal back up the ladder past the point of no return. If he or she wants to and can come again, a lower level of arousal will give the body the necessary breather, and as soon as it is possible and wanted, up again for the second orgasm. This looks really good, doesn't it? And you know the best part of it is, it all can be learned. So now you know what causes these arousal headaches. You have learned how you can avoid them. And if you need any more help with it, please give me a call. I'm there for you. I will help you with it all. And if none of this works for you, then do me a favor and please have some Swiss chocolate next to your bed. It will possibly not, it cannot avoid the headaches, but it can put a smile on your face because it is the best chocolate in the world, and it can fix most headaches rather quickly. So enjoy your sexuality, embrace it, learn about it, and I will talk to you next week. Have a great week. Bye-bye.